What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show with me, Huzaifa, and your boy, Justin Guitar Hero James. We had some pretty interesting videos that were posted on our channel this week, but probably the most interesting was, of course, Justin's video right in the locker room after his bare knuckle fight last Friday. If you guys are new to the channel, Justin, hey, what's up, Western? He says, hey, yo, lads. Justin had his first ever bare knuckle fight boxing match last Friday, and he was cool enough to actually film himself, kind of like talk about the sport, talk about his career and all that stuff right after the fight. So if you guys haven't checked that out, you can check it out it's posted on our Instagram, but we also posted on the YouTube channel. Make sure to check it out. A lot of words of wisdom, and Justin gives a really, really heartfelt speech there. We actually had some people in the locker room. Izzy Slot says, two dads. What's up, Izzy Slots? We even had some people in the locker room that were listening as Justin talks for about like 6-7 minutes uninterrupted. I didn't know there were other people in there. And then as soon as you finished, do you remember this? They applauded.
Oh yeah, I remember. I wasn't fucked up or anything. I wasn't concussed. I was good to go.
Yeah, you know what? Because you remember everything. Okay, so I remember talking to you when you fought in Commerce like a long time ago. We had a whole conversation, and you're like, you didn't remember any of it, but I think you remember everything that happened this time, dude. Which is one of the good things about bare knuckle. Okay, before we get into the show today, Justin, so talking about that bare knuckle match, talking about all that stuff, tell us the updates on your hand, because we know you broke your hand in the fight.
Yeah, hairline fracture. Doctor said don't even need to cast it. Just don't have any impact for about at least a month, and we should be 100% in the next couple weeks. Yeah, I'm just not holding mitts right now for clients. Obviously, yeah. I'm not wrestling. Basically, just took this whole week off. I've been sleeping all day. I get up, I go to work, and I come back and I go to sleep for a couple hours, and get up, go back to work for a couple hours, and come back and go to sleep. Man, just let my body recover. Not even just my body, but mentally recover from all the stress that I put on myself over the last couple weeks. It's a good week to rest.
Dude, absolutely. That's amazing. I was talking to Louisa about this. So, oh yeah, Izzy Slot says video games prescribe rehab. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Oh, you probably can't even play video games though, right?
No, I can. Yeah, I can play video games. Yeah.
So I was talking to Louisa about this on I think Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, dude, you broke your hand and you didn't see a doctor for what, like 5 days? Because if that were, remember I asked you after the fight, you want me to take you to the hospital. If I ever broke something, I would immediately go to the emergency room. I guess that's just the difference with fighters or in general. Or do you find like most people at your gym would have reacted the same way and taken their time? Or are you even unique amongst fighters where you're like, it's all good, I'll figure it out later?
I think it's person to person, but I've went through it so many times that I just, there's nothing that they could have done for me that night. I have friends in town, I got you in town, I got family in town. Like I'm ready to go out and spend some time with them. Like I can come back to the doctor's office another day and again go to the emergency room. They give me some painkillers. They give me some probably ace bandage and charge me $500 and send me on my way. Man, I've done that. I've done it all before. There's nothing that they do that night that's just like, holy shit, this just fixed me. Even if it was severely broken, they wouldn't even put it back into place. So I had a really, really bad break once. The bone was actually TP'd. Instead, it was like here and it TP'd up like this, and it was about this high out of my skin. And
compound fracture.
Yeah, it was a compound fracture. And when I went to the hospital. And they're like, well, there's really nothing we can do about it until you get to the surgeon on Monday. And this was on a Friday. So, yeah, just wait around, take some painkillers, deal with the pain. And that's all you do until you get to the surgeon, man. And I got to the surgeon yesterday. He was happy to say that his surgery or his plate that he put in 5 years ago held up. It's just he described it like taking a rock and hitting on a windshield. It didn't break all the way through, but it kind of like spider webbed out. Sure. And that I'll be good within a month. So here we go.
Noru Ego. Actually, I haven't seen you in a while. Noru Ego, but I do remember this name. Says, bro, apparently medicine in the U.S. sucks. What the F? It's not untrue. I mean, there is great medicine. There's certain things that the U.S. is really fantastic with, but there's a lot of things, I think, especially in the last 10, 15, 20 years where the U.S. has fallen behind. Interestingly enough, before we got a bunch of amazing topics today, by the way, but before we get in, I want to tell you one other thing because I haven't had a chance to like have a phone call with you. On Monday night, something happened in my back. And by the way, Celine says, hi, guys. Happy to see you. What's up, Celine? Thank you, as always, for being a part of the show. Something happened when I was up in my kitchen. I wasn't even doing anything. And this is maybe my old age. Something shifted in my back, and I got the worst back spasms I've had in my life. I was literally frozen. I was able to fall asleep, and then in the morning, It was so bad. Any little movement, it would just seize up. My back would spasm so hard. And that was happening like every 5 minutes and just this intense pain. I was looking up videos on what to do. I was like, do I go to the emergency room? This is insane. I started just trying to like move and fight through the pain. And eventually it started to loosen up a little bit. And then I went to a chiropractor for the first time, which I was really scared to do. But he immediately identified the issue. I don't know if you've seen a chiropractor before, and he did this crazy adjustment. It hurt, but boom. And then basically a little bit of rehab, and I'm back to normal after a couple of days. It's just a little sore spot. But have you ever had a back spasm like that?
Oh yeah, man. One time I was working in the factory before I moved to Vegas, and I picked up a pallet off the ground, and I was down for the count for like 3 days. Not walking, just immobilized. I felt like curled up in a ball, acting like a little bitch. Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
It's crazy. Okay. Anyways, enough of our medical woes. Let's get into the mix. We got some really cool stuff. So first of all, I wanted to talk about Paddy Pimblett with this upcoming fight against Michael Chandler. Now, he just did an interview with Shaq MMA that I watched earlier this week. And there was a notable part of the interview that I want to show you in particular. I didn't tell you about this in our text chain, but I just wanted to show this to you and get your live reaction. So I thought this was very interesting. Once again, this goes back to me always liking to analyze from a psychological standpoint the fighters in the interviews leading up to see if I can make a prediction based on their interviews. Now, Michael Chandler, when he was interviewed by Ariel, showed immense confidence about taking on Paddy Pimblett. When Ariel said, do you think this is the greatest competition that Paddy's ever faced? And Chandler was like, obviously, duh. So I thought that was pretty notable. But watch how Paddy talks about Michael Chandler. And yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts about this. Check this out.
How would you sort of rate him right now?
And so he says, hey, how would you rate Michael Chandler?
Still think he's very good. Know what I mean? I'm not going to take nothing away from him. It's just this sport, a young man's game, his age is catching up with him a little bit, and it's just one of them. Like, that's what this sport does. You can't keep fighting until you get to a certain age. You've seen it. Only heavyweights can do that because, like, speed, you lose your speed first. Mm-hmm. And at our weight divisions, bantam, feather, lightweight, welterweight, they make a big difference.
What was going through your mind?
Okay, so the reason, let me tell you why I think this is notable, and then Justin, as the fighter, I want to turn over to you to get your thoughts. The reason why I thought this was notable is usually I feel like a fighter, if you think you're going to beat somebody, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you still want to build that fighter up. So when you do eventually emerge victorious, you be like, yeah, that was such tough competition. I'm a legend. Move me up in the rankings. Give me top 10, give me top 5, whatever. But Paddy is almost talking about Michael Chandler, almost like he's feeling sad about it. Now, part of me was like, is this some sort of mental warfare? I don't think it is. I think he legit is saying that with a bit of tenderness in his heart. And that also leads me to believe that I feel like he's pretty confident that he's going to get the job done. Justin, let me turn it over to you now and get your reaction, your thoughts to that clip.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, he's talking about his age. He's talking about his speed. Where technically does he think he can beat Mike? I mean, let's say Paddy is slightly faster, which he's probably not. He's not going to be stronger. He's not going to have better technique. He's not going to sub him. Charles Oliveira had his back and couldn't sub him. Charles Oliveira is arguably the greatest lightweight grappler in the UFC right now of all weights. He's definitely one I know. Oh, Islam's better. Right? Islam's, again, you're comparing the greatest, in the weight class at all things, but. Oliveira couldn't sub him. Like, you look at his losses, I think he's 2-4 in the UFC, since coming over. All 4 losses have been done to former UFC champs. He knocked out Tony Ferguson, who Paddy beat by decision. I think Paddy really just doesn't have anything to go on right now. He can't talk about, I'm a much better striker. He's not. Oh, I'm a much better grappler. He's not. I'm a much better wrestler. He's not. I'm a much better fighter. He's not. So he's found something like, oh, well, he's slower because of his age. And that's one thing I think. The only thing we can agree on that, yeah, Mike's slower, and I do agree with Paddy when he says it is a young man's sport. And again, me being 35, I can attest to that, man. Regardless, man. I was sparring, a couple weeks ago, getting ready for my BK fight, and I got tuned up by this 18-year-old kid, man. He just was so fast and precise, and obviously I have so much more experience and age and strength, but young people do have that advantage, man, and. I still don't think it's enough to warrant that Paddy thinks he's going to win. I think this is the only thing he can talk. What is he going to come to the fight? Be like, oh, I'm not as good as him anywhere in the field. Like I'm gonna win, but I'm not as good as him anywhere in the field. So he wants to talk about the things like his age and his speed, and I think it's a good point to talk about, but I think he's wrong. I don't think Mike. I don't think he can beat Mike in anywhere in this fight.
Wow. What about his jiu-jitsu? That's kind of been his bread and butter from the get-go. That's his strongest suit. Do you think his jiu-jitsu is strong enough to get a submission on Chandler? I mean, I know you mentioned Oliveira. Chandler said that in an interview too. He's like, hey, if Oliveira can't submit me, how the heck is Paddy going to submit me?
It's exactly, unless he has some tricks up his sleeve, like there's always every good grappler, including myself, has a move that they feel they can hit on anybody that where they'll just. But it's one of those moves where you can hit it once and then you'll never do it again. And a lot of guys will save like a cheat move per se. We like to make a joke like, and maybe he could do that, but again, he's gonna have to get really lucky. Charles Oliveira, again, to me, one of the greatest lightweight grapplers of all time. He's definitely one of the greatest grapplers in the UFC right now. And he couldn't sub Mike. And not only was he was on Mike's back for like almost a whole round, and he couldn't find a rear naked choke. He couldn't find an armbar. He was able to secure position, but again, we're talking about one of the greatest grapplers in UFC history compared to an up and comer of Paddy Pimblett.
Fair enough. Couple comments, and then we're going to move on to the next topic. Nora Ego says, who wouldn't want to see Paddy Paddington rip cheater Chandler into the? Yeah, I think he's gotten that unfortunate nickname ever since. Well, actually, I mean, I think he may have kind of a bit of a reputation of cheating. We've talked about it a little bit on the show. And then Donald Gage says, I got to go with age and reach. So he's picking Paddy. Look, whatever the odds may say and whatever people think and whoever's favorite, I do really, really, really hope that Paddy Pimblett wins and beats Michael Chandler, because it's going to make the lightweight division insane. If, again, we go into fantasy land, if he wins, and let's say Ilia Topuria comes in, let's say he fights Islam or whatever, and he gets the belt, or he fights somebody else. I mean, that fight is right there. And who doesn't like a drama-filled fight more than me? Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria. That may actually happen. And the thing I love about it is Paddy feels confident. And again, Paddy's a huge lightweight. People don't realize he's pretty tall. He's got a lot of he's just got a lot of length, and I don't know. I think it could be interesting. I know people would pick Ilia, but I like that Paddy's confident. So let's see what happens on that front. Now, speaking of Ilia, what's next for Ilia? The reason why I want to talk about this is I want to get your thoughts on this, Justin. So Ilia Topuria posted something. I don't have the Twitter post pulled up, but he posted something along the lines of, guys, you guys are in for a massive surprise. You will not believe once this next announcement comes. So people are speculating a couple things. Number one, John Jones recently did something like that, and then people thought he was going to announce the Aspinall fight. He just announced some partnership with some new brand. I don't know. It was basically a rug pull, right? So maybe that's happening. But let's pretend it's actually legit and it's actually fight related. So something that would surprise people that people wouldn't expect. People are saying, okay, well, if you did fight Islam, like that would be amazing, but it wouldn't totally blow our minds, because that's what people are more or less expecting. And then why would a matchup against Arman or Oliveira blow people away? But there's one possible fight, perhaps, I want to get your thoughts if you think this is realistic. There's one possible fight that would blow people away. Can you guess what it might be in the lightweight division?
I have no idea.
People are saying or speculating, some people, that the fight might be Ilia versus Conor in September. What do you think?
I think it's stupid. I mean, why? Like, Conor's lost. Like, what? So Ilia can go in there and beat him again, and he can lose 3 fights in a row. I think it's I don't think Conor wins the fight. I don't think he would risk. Again, Conor beat Max Holloway barely like 15 years ago. And Ilia just went out there and starched him. Conor's been on a drug bender for the last couple of years. He's been on a steroid bender for the last couple of years. I think it's a terrible matchup. People will tune in for the fight to watch Conor get his ass whooped, but that's not a fight that Conor can win. And I don't see Conor McGregor, especially this late in his career, is very what's the word I'm looking for? He's very thought out of who his opponent's going to be, and I don't think there's any I don't think he can beat Ilia. Let alone can he make lightweight? And it's like, for how big he is. Really, would you guys be excited to watch that again? He's 0-2 in his last 2, finished both times. I don't see any excitement to that fight. I think it's stupid.
Man, I hate to admit it because it makes me sound like a casual, but I would be excited. I want to see Conor back in there at least one more time. I'm so curious. You
just want to see him get his ass whooped? Seriously, do you want to see him win or get his ass whooped? Because there's no chance of him winning. How's he going to win?
I do want to see him win. I want to see him fight somebody that he could beat. But
he can't beat Topuria, you know that.
Yeah, it's probably very unlikely.
Where's he going to beat him? Is he going to out wrestle him? Is he going to out grapple him?
Yeah.
I mean, could he land his left hand and knock him out? Of course. But guess what? I mean, I could land my left hand on anybody too and knock him out. But Ilia's been active. And not only has he been active, he's been on a legend killing resurgence, not even a resurgence, but just killing legend after legend after legend. And what a resume that would be to knock out Volk, knock out Max Holloway, now come out and knock out Conor McGregor. Now the UFC might want to see it, to essentially solidify his tombstone, Conor's tombstone. But again, I mean, that's not good for business. The UFC wants Conor to win. The UFC wants to give him hype, and this is not a fight. That would be the fight to kill Conor McGregor. And there's no coming back from being 0-3. And what's he going to get a title fight after that? You know what I mean? Like, he loses 2 to Dustin Poirier, comes back, somehow beats Topuria, and he's going to be called for a title right away. I don't like it. I think it's bad for business, and it makes the UFC look foolish.
So the only reason why I think it might be possible, but you're probably right, it's probably not going to happen, and maybe these speculations or these rumors are just totally insane. I heard Brendan Schaub talking about it the other day. I know people have given me crap before about citing Brendan Schaub as a reference, but he does know a lot of things. I think people underestimate him. But anyways, the only way I could see it is Conor is on his way out. There's also further speculation that his sunset clause is about to activate in early 2026, even maybe late 2025. So if that's the case and the UFC knows he's leaving, they can take that star power of Conor and use it to give one final thrust to somebody else. Why not Ilia, who's a relatively young champion, go in there, have this basically crazy match. He beats him, boom, shoots him to the moon, and then has a super fight against Islam and Islam and Topuria. So that's one possibility. And then in the meantime, maybe and this is going to take us to topic 3. In the meantime, instead of Islam versus Topuria, we have Gaethje versus Islam. So I want to talk about this. But anyways, that's my thought. You're right. I can see it potentially making the UFC look bad. But if the UFC is trying to milk Conor one last time and get that rub, and maybe they know he's on his way out anyways, he wants to fight in BKFC. I think that's the feeling that I have anyways about Conor. If he's about to leave and doesn't really want to stick around, let's have him boost somebody up and then exit out.
But anyway, again, that takes 2 people to agree. Yeah, that would be great for the UFC. That'd be huge for business. But Conor McGregor, he doesn't care about the UFC. He cares about self-preservation. He cares about his legacy. Like, okay, hey, you guys want to boost this other guy with my name? Yeah, that sounds good. Like, no, come on, man. He would never do that. He wants to fight a guy like Nate Diaz. He wants to fight a guy like Nick Diaz. He wants to fight a guy like Justin Gaethje. He wants to fight a guy like Mike Chandler that isn't that good anymore, and because Topuria is good and he's only getting better too. He's still so young. He wants to fight an old vet that's on his way out. Conor McGregor doesn't give a fuck about the UFC. Conor McGregor cares about Conor McGregor, as he should. No fighter should care about the UFC. Like when I was in the UFC, it's like, oh, I care. I want to be the man for business. I want to show up every time. Fuck that. Fuck the UFC. Like they're their business. They don't care about you. They don't care about Conor McGregor. And there's no way Conor's gonna be like, oh, well, I'm gonna try to benefit this company that doesn't give a fuck about me. He's too smart. He's too calculated. And even if he does say yes to the fight, he'll probably get injured in the lead up.
So everything I agree with you in the sense of, yes, of course he's going to do what's right for business. Let me throw out one other hypothesis to get your thoughts, and we'll move on to the next topic. Again, going back to my theory that Conor is financially pressed right now. He's had a lot of partnerships this year, and he may be in need of a fight and in need of the cash flow. So possibly with the right financial incentive, I think he could take a fight now at this point where it would be a mismatch and where maybe he would be heavily favored to lose. That being said, if he doesn't fight Ilia, I still would love to see him fight Michael Chandler, because I think that is still a winnable fight. And now Chandler's had to face Oliveira. He's going to have to go through Paddy. And then if they come in and that September date is still going to go down, which Dana mentioned a long time ago, he thinks Conor will fight in September. If that still goes down and he puts him against Chandler, I'd love to see that too. I just want to see Conor get in there one last time. And I know you've been saying he's been partying and on a drug binge and all that stuff, but there's still a question in my mind. I still am curious. Maybe he can still come back. And I think that's what we want to believe as fans or other people out there. Maybe I'm not the brightest in terms of my ability to assess where he's at right now, but I still think there's a chance that maybe he's been training to some extent and maybe he's still got it. And I want to see if that's the case. That's the question I want answered. So anyways, I guess we shall see. But enough about Conor. Oh, wait, let's see. We got a couple comments. Donald Gage says, pisses me off. Connor strung Mike along for so long. Yeah, oh, dude, he definitely strung him along for a long time.
Yeah,
And he says, he made me drug money. I don't know. Yeah. So, anyways, we shall see. But let's get back to Gaethje versus Islam. So, Gaethje is now being talked about as the next matchup for Islam. And I think, again, it's going to largely depend on what happens with Topuria. Some people are upset about it. But John Anik, for example, says he thinks Gaethje makes great sense for Islam next. I'm going to make a separate video about this later today or tomorrow. I want to see this. I personally think it makes sense. He was in line. He was going to get the shot. He chose to take on that fight against Max Holloway to help UFC 300. They paid him handsomely, I'm sure. He suffered a loss, but I don't see why it's such a stretch after this great victory. He comes in there. He was supposed to fight Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker dropped out. People are saying, oh, you barely beat Fiziev on short notice. Well, I feel like that's a tougher fight to fight Rafael Fiziev. Correct me if you disagree, but he took on Rafael Fiziev on short notice. He had to adjust his game plan on the fly, came out victorious. Why can't he be next? Justin, what do you think?
I'm a Justin Gaethje fan, so I'm obviously going to side with you and say he can be. He's won 3 out of his last 4. Losing at UFC 300, took a long layoff. Looked great against Fiziev. Again, unfortunately, Fiziev's only ranked 11th, so I can see why people don't really like that. But this is a matchup that hasn't happened before, and we're always talking about these new exciting matchups. Like Islam's kind of went through the division, man. That's why we want him to fight Belal and stuff. I think Gaethje's again at the end of his career. I could see him fighting Islam and losing and retiring, and I'd be totally fine with that because if he goes and fights Islam and loses, like he's not getting another title shot. That'll be 2 title shots. He loses to Khabib, he loses to Islam. That'd be a great time for Justin Gaethje to hang up his gloves instead of having to win 2 more fights to get a rematch. That I just don't think it's in his deck of cards. So I'm fine with the matchup, especially because I'm such a Justin Gaethje fan.
Yeah, me too. I'm not only fine with it. I think it would be a very interesting and great matchup. I know people are saying Islam would be heavily favored to win, but from Islam's perspective, he's fighting one of a former interim champ of the lightweight division and a legend of the lightweight divisions everybody would love. So I feel like it's just so win-win for Islam, for Gaethje, and fine. If he goes in there, gets 1 more title shot, and if he does lose, I think that's what he wants. He wants to be chasing something. He wants to be chasing the belt. Let him get that shot. He deserves it. It's going to be a super fun fight, regardless of how the odds may be stacked for him or against him. So yeah, I want to see that fight. And I'd rather have Ilia fight somebody else, whether it's Connor, whether it's Arman Sarukian, you know what I mean? By the way, Arman Sarukian called out Justin, said he wants to fight Justin instead. I don't know what's going to happen there. Did you see the video I made earlier this week about Justin Gaethje kind of like calling out Arman about his weight issue?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay, so I made another video, kind of a follow-up to your big expose on Arman Sarukian and why you thought he missed weight. So this is crazy. Arman Sarukian said publicly that he offered to step in against Gaethje instead of Fiziev, but he just said, hey, I just can't make 155 because it's too short notice, so let's do it at 160. Gaethje came out, and again, Gaethje, you agree with me, I think, on this. Like, Gaethje does not lie. He does not make stuff up. He just tells the honest truth. He's like, yeah, Arman Sarukian said publicly that he wanted to fight at 160, but he's like, that's a lie. Arman asked our camp to fight at 170. So he couldn't even make one. Now, you tell me if do you feel like that's strong evidence to bolster your theory, or do you think most people would have trouble making weight within that time frame in like 10 days or whatever it was, 14 days?
Yeah, it'd be tough to make. It'd be tough, but 170 going up a different weight class. When I got called to fight Devontae Smith, on 3-day notice, like I still made 160. So I mean, I don't think he should be that much heavier.
Right.
Especially and when you're at that level, like you're training every day. So to want to go up 15 pounds is a lot. I'm glad Justin Gaethje didn't take it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, Noru Ego says Arman has a point though. I don't know. I want Justin Gaethje to get in there. Two Smelly Fingers says, what's up to Western? And Pern is in the mix. He says, weekend, evening, good people. Pern is, of course, in, I believe, Denmark. I can't remember, but somewhere in Europe. Oh, look at this. Donald Gage says Justin's wrestling could give Islam some real trouble.
He doesn't demonstrate it though, man. That's just like, it's just, I think if he came out and he's big and strong, but again, Division I wrestler, you know, I think it's one of those, wrestling is something that you can lose if you don't do it enough. And I don't think Justin is the same wrestler he was 10 years ago. I think he has one takedown in the UFC, and it was against Fiziev,
Yeah.
and that was the first time they fought. So I don't see Justin trying to wrestle Islam at any point. I see him using his wrestling as more defensive wrestling to land those big highlight reel knockouts.
And what about those calf kicks? Justin Gaethje is alleged with the calf kicks. I mean, he was beating up. If you guys don't remember, he was beating up Khabib's leg, and he felt like one or two more of those, and he would have dropped Khabib. But then Khabib got him in that crazy triangle. If you guys remember, that was Khabib's retirement fight against Justin Gaethje. All right, the more I think about it, we got to make this Justin Gaethje versus Islam. This is the fight to make. This is a fight to make. I don't want to see Islam. I don't want to see Ilia against Islam nearly as badly as I want to see this. Plus, this is much better for legacy building for Islam. Everybody wins. Let's go, Justin Gaethje. Let's get in there. Okay, let's move it along. By the way, MGAL4 Productions is in the mix. He says to you, Justin, you're so brave to face. There's fears. Props to you from Miami. So
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And all right, let's keep it moving. Now, we got a great fight tomorrow. And it's your boy Roman Dolidze versus Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is back after, I think, almost 2 years, which is crazy. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Marvin Vettori is, despite the fact that he's been in the UFC for so long and he's had 2 years off, he's only 31. I think some people even shock for MMA, that YouTube channel where I showed the Paddy Pimblett video. He even said he was surprised when he realized that Vettori is still only 31. So he's just barely entering his prime right now. Vettori versus Dolidze. Justin, can I get your thoughts on this matchup?
Not excited about it, man. Vettori's been off for so long. Don't really care for his style. Dolidze, you know, big bully in the cage. I mean, I think this is a tailor-made matchup for him. I don't see either guy getting a finish. I see this being a wrestler's delight. I see this being a very boring fight. I take a Dolidze winning by decision. It's nothing about this fight excites me. Again, I'm not a huge Vettori fan. I mean, he's a great fighter. That's the thing. Like, guys say that I'm not a fan of him and they think that I hate him or something. And, you know, and Dolidze trains at the gym and he sees this video, you know, he might get upset. I really don't understand that. Just because if I say that I'm not a fan of a guy or a fan of his style, that they take it so personal. Not really a fan of either of these guys' style. I know Dolidze trained at the gym. I got a lot of respect for him. He's an incredible fighter. I just don't like either of these guys' style. Again, I'm going to reiterate, you know, Vettori, I don't know, man. He's just kind of boring to watch. Dolidze has a lot of decision wins. I think this is going to be a snooze fest, and I think it's going to decision.
All right, fair enough. But it's like art, literally martial arts. It's like art. Everybody has a different taste, has a different aesthetic that they like. Fair point. But you do think Dolidze is going to get the victory. I am going to try and watch this fight tomorrow. I'm curious to see how Vettori comes back. I think that's always a question too when people have long layoffs. By the way, Jan Blachowicz is coming back very soon as well. I heard his interview. Dude, his dude is so crazy. He went through 2 shoulder surgeries. He had to get one shoulder, then 2 months later he had to get the other one. He thought there were periods throughout that time. We'll do a deep dive into that interview at some point. He thought multiple times throughout that recovery period that he was going to retire and he was never going to fight again. And then he came through it. He recovered and he's coming back in there because he just said he just wants to come back. He loves the sport. So wild what fighters go through. I can't imagine those ups and downs. So many times where you think you're out and then you're back in just based on injuries. And it's so crazy. Anyways, all right, let's keep it moving. Your favorite fighter. We got a interesting update from him. Belal, apparently in a recent podcast interview, claims he's not going to shoot any takedowns again. I mean, I just think this is silly. Like when fighters are talking about this, Ankalaev said the same thing. Obviously, he didn't follow through, which was smart. He did shoot many takedowns.
Only 12.
Yeah. Said not. Like, it's just stupid. Why even say this? Why even talk about your game plan, which obviously you're usually keeping close to the chest? It just seems, the whole thing seems nonsensical. But one thing he said in the interview, which I thought was funny, because he did actually have some pretty good striking against Leon Edwards, but he said he's going to show everybody the true meaning of Canelo hands. But this is what he claims. Justin, what do you make of this from the fighter's perspective?
Get your pillow, guys. Get your pillow. I probably won't even watch it. I'll probably go smoke a bowl or something and go play video games when this fight comes on. Belal, incredible fighter. He's a great champion. He's going to be the champion for a really long time. But again, his whole game is putting guys up in the fence, taking him down, winning snooze fest decisions. And for him to come out and say something ridiculous, I'm not going to shoot a takedown. So you're gonna put yourself at the best chance of losing. JDM has incredible striking, man. He has a really underestimated striking. If Belal stands with JDM, he might be looking up at the lights and not know where he's at after a while. Belal has to put him up against the fence. He has to make it a snooze fest. And I'll tell you what, Belal has good striking. He has great
Yeah.
kicks. He has great boxing, but he'll throw a combo, throw a kick, and then he shoots. And it's like, so he doesn't really ever give himself that chance to knock guys out. And I firmly believe that he could. Like when you watch him strike, if he just didn't bail to his wrestling, in the middle of each combo, and worked his feints more, because guys are so afraid. Like he's at a point in his career. Well, he was the champ, so maybe he doesn't want to risk it. But he's at a point where he has good enough striking to where he could throw a combo feint and then throw another combo and possibly knock somebody out. But right now, he's just throwing his combos. He's shooting guys and putting guys against the fence. And personally, I hate to watch it. I mean, I don't care if he's the champ or whoever. It's not a style of fight that I like to watch. Bilal's probably a great guy. I'm sure I'd drink some beers with him, but he's definitely not a guy that I'd stay awake for to watch in a main event.
I don't think he drinks, by the way, but yes, I get what you're saying. Hang out with him. He's really grown on me, by the way, and I know he hasn't really grown on you as much, but he has grown on me. I was very surprised that he had the performance that he did against Leon Edwards. So I actually am excited to see this fight, and I don't want him to not shoot takedowns. I actually want him to use his full skill set, because let's see who's better when Belal throws everything, the entire kitchen sink at JDM. But yeah, I'm feeling like Bilal's gonna win, and I'm kind of excited to see what happens in the welterweight division. Also, I actually think Belal might very well move up after this fight. Let Islam come up. Who knows? The UFC, it's going to be very interesting how everything unfolds. Let me go through a couple of comments before we get to our final topic. MGAL4 Production says Justin James would KO Belal.
Right.
There we go. Marvin Vettori wears his shorts backwards. Are they okay? I don't know. Does he wear his shorts backwards? I never heard
he
of
does.
that.
I think he did it by I think he did it by mistake.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but yeah, his last fight, I'm pretty sure his shorts were backwards.
Okay, Bird is surprised with this Canelo hand statement. Yeah, so Belal said this, by the way, leading up to Leon Edwards' fight. We both were like, "What is he talking about?" But then he did an awesome job striking against Leon Edwards. So I had to retract my ridicule of him for these statements, because his striking is actually very good, as Justin reiterated just a second ago. Bro, Justin is ruthless. I think he's talking about Justin Gaethje. And because you mentioned, Ego was mentioning that, hey, he thinks Justin Gaethje would have a great chance against Islam. I want to see that fight. Let's go. MGAL4 Productions also says Bilal's body kicks are very good. And let's see, we got anything else?
I think Bilal's kickboxing are good. He just doesn't utilize it as a whole. With that being said, I mean, he's doing what he has to do to win. It doesn't mean that I have to like to watch it. It's like a defensive football team that, wins by 3 points in every game. It's not really that exciting. I want to see guys shooting, throwing Hail Marys all game, and it's, I don't know. And again, it's just preference. Like I said, Bilal's probably a great guy and he's a great fighter. He's a champion, but it's just not something I like to watch.
By the way, Ego corrected me when he said Justin's ruthless. I thought he was talking about Gaethje. He was talking about you. He said no. It's talking about you with your thoughts on Belal versus JDM.
Man, just call it the way I see it, man. Call it the way I see it.
Just truth. All right, last bit of news. I don't know if you heard this, but I thought you might be excited to hear about this. This is wild. Guess who's coming back to the UFC?
Oh shit! That's. I wonder why. Like, because he's just had such a great showing in BKFC. This is actually really surprising.
Exactly. Well, apparently, I heard this at the gym today, right before the show. That's why this is a late ad for topics. Apparently, he hasn't won. I think he's lost his last 9 MMA fights. Let me look at his record really quickly. I'm going to pull this up. I want to see who he's fighting too. But maybe he wants to get in there just to kind of right that wrong of those last 9 fights that he's lost. Okay, so let's look at this. So, here's his. Oh, no, he has gotten a win against Miles Price in the PFL on June 17th, my birthday. Let's go. But he does have quite a few losses. He lost to Jose Aldo, Sabit, Yair Rodriguez, no contest. Then he lost to Yair Rodriguez, lost to Calvin Kattar, Gamrot, and then he was out of the UFC. Then he lost in the PFL, won one fight in the PFL, and then lost again. And let's see who he's fighting against. And then, he's 3-0 in BKFC. Hold on. Jeremy Stevens. Next fight, UFC. We're going to double check this right now. If it were up to you, would you? Oh, here we go. Shocking return to the UFC. He's fighting in Des Moines, Iowa, because that's where he's from. I bet you it's going to be his last fight in the UFC or in MMA. But he's fighting somebody named Mason Jones. I don't know who. Do you know who Mason Jones is?
Never heard of him.
So if it were up to you, like if you could choose where he would go next, do you want to see him come back and fight in the UFC one more time, or would you rather have him stick around in BKFC? Like, what's more exciting to you?
BKFC, he's 3-0. He's undefeated. I mean, he just handled, in Knucklemania. I mean, he looked like a freaking savage against Eddie Alvarez. I think Jeremy Stevens made for BKFC. His style's made for. He's tough. He's gritty. I think he's gonna have a lot of success, and I see him as a future BKFC world champion. And Jeremy Stevens versus Conor McGregor in BKFC is very intriguing, especially 10 years ago. Who the fuck is that guy? Well, then now Jeremy Stevens has a chance to show Conor who he is, and I really think he can beat Conor in BKFC.
Dude, Conor and BKFC is wild. There's so many interesting fights, and I think he would do amazing in BKFC with all the boxing he's done, with his striking acumen, and also his hands are like massive, right? Have you heard this?
No, I have not.
So there's this interesting sort of like mathematical principle apparently with a lot of good strikers. It's also sort of in the NBA, but it's this weird combination of arm span and height. So like, your wingspan relative to your height. And then also people talk about the really good strikers have just like crazy cinder blocks for hands. So Conor fits both of those sort of like equations. His wingspan is really long compared to his height, and he's got huge hands. So I think you take him in there with bare, I mean, who knows? But with bare knuckle, I bet his hands, he would be able to hit a little bit harder than the average without breaking his hands. Is very, very fascinating. But you got him against Jeremy Stevens, him a rematch against Eddie Alvarez. That's crazy. You've got him against Mike Perry with that beef, with him firing Mike Perry. I don't know. And any other number of guys could come into BKFC and fight him. It would be so cool. I wish the UFC would just buy BKFC and let him go in there right now and just like build up the brand all around Conor. I wish they could do that.
It'd be exciting though. It'd be exciting to say the least.
Okay, so let's read through a few more comments and then we will call it a day. So Two Smelly Finger says, imagine Jeremy Stevens KOs Conor McGregor and says, yeah, exactly.
That'd be awesome.
It's kind of cool that he gets one more in his hometown, I think, if it's a reasonable matchup. Yeah, I don't know who Mason Jones is, but I think it's awesome. Yeah. Have you ever been to Iowa?
No.
My sister used to live there, so I've been there many, many times in Iowa City, but haven't been there in quite some time. Western says that's called the ape index. I think he's talking about the hand size, but also the
wingspan.
Exactly. Because in general, I do think apes have like super long wingspan compared to their stand-up height. And last comment we're going to feature here. I don't think Conor McGregor ever fights again. Honestly,
I've been saying that for a couple of years now, man. And when the Mike Chandler beef came out and he got injured, I mean, I wasn't surprised. I mean, Conor might just be trying to stay relevant because, like I said, he's going to get in BKFC and he might realize that, hey, kind of like I did, like, hey, this is different, man. And if you compromise yourself by hitting the top of the head or the back of the head like I did, you find out real quick that this isn't very fun.
But you don't think he's going to have at least one more fight?
I mean, how long has it been? It's been like 5 years since he's fought. Why? I mean, if he needs money, I get it. But, like, what kind of relevance does he bring? He's not going to be fighting for a championship. He's not fighting for his legacy. They're going to give him a guy with, he fights Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler's 2-4, 2-5 in the UFC. Like, congratulations, he beats him. Then what? Everybody's beating him. And now look, what if Paddy comes out and beats Mike Chandler? Now what kind of credibility do we get if Mike, if Chandler loses to, or if Chandler beats Conor? You know what I mean? I just think there's no really positive ways for him to come out, at least in the sense to where people think he deserves a matchup. Like, what if he gets thrown right into a title contention? Nobody thinks he deserves that. He loses to Mike Chandler. Mike Chandler has a losing record in the UFC. He's not going to fight Paddy Pimblett because he's from the UK.
He might.
No, I don't think so. I think Conor McGregor and Paddy. I think that the UFC sees value in the way Paddy's coming up through the rankings, and they could see him as the next Conor McGregor, the way he trash talks. So I don't think they're going to risk losing that asset because right now the UFC doesn't have that much star power. When the UFC came out, you had guys like Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, John Jones, Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva, Gray Maynard. Like, guys were fired up about these guys with this huge star power. And right now the UFC doesn't have them. They don't have Conor McGregor. They don't have Robbie Lawler. They have a bunch of guys that have potential like Paddy Pimblett, but they have to give him the right route like they did Conor to get that star power. And him fighting Conor McGregor, unless they're sure Paddy's going to win, is not the right call.
Okay, the only reason why I think that I get everything you're saying. Paddy did say in a recent interview that he wants to fight Conor after this fight. I mean, God, I just hope. Okay, by the way, let me post a couple comments. People are agreeing with you, and it's just so disappointing because I really hope this is wrong. He said, Prince says, I also don't think he's going to fight again either. He is a whatever. And then agreed he would have come back already. Guys, you got to believe. You got to believe this is the biggest star the UFC in the history of mixed martial arts. We got to at least be a little optimistic because I just feel like it's so sad if he doesn't come back because he still can fight. Maybe he'll lose his next fight. I just want to see him back one more time. Then maybe he goes to BKFC and keeps going. But I don't know. Sobering up with millions, not easy. Like I said, I don't know. I think he's financially pressed right now. I've been saying this for months and months and months. And I think that people don't really understand how these things work, especially when you can see from I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong, but when you see the way he lives his life, the way he spends his money, and then all these other legal troubles and whatnot that have happened, I don't know. I think people are overestimating his net worth, and I think he's pressed for cash right now. So let's see. I think that could be another reason bolstering this argument that he may come back at least for one more fight. Let's see what happens. I don't know. But anyways, I hope he does because it'd be very exciting. All right, guys, that's it for our Friday show. Thank you guys so much for joining. And again, we'll be back here on Monday, same time, 1:30 p.m. PST. Please click that like button if you did like this show today, and make sure to click subscribe if you want to join along with us. We're also releasing videos on the daily, and we're going to have, once Justin's hand is better, we're going to have these training videos up for that first tier of membership. We're getting very close to launching that. I know we've been saying that for a while, but we're getting there. And Celine says, have an amazing weekend. You too. And Western says, thanks, lads. Thank you guys for joining. We appreciate it so much. Thank you guys, and we will see you in the next video. Oh, Andrew Nance says, let's effing go. All right, take it easy.
See you guys.